This is Parkinson's Awareness Month, and we'll be talking with someone who has a personal experience with Parkinson's disease. Zack Briggs works for KENS TV in San Antonio. I've known him for a couple of years, and I invited him on to talk about his career in broadcasting, the different places he's been over the last decade that he's been in the business, and his time in San Antonio, and Parkinson's disease, and how he has a personal connection. You mentioned it earlier that you were in Uvalde for the elementary school, tragedy that happened there. Next month will be the 1 year anniversary, and you said that you're more than likely going to be back there for the 1 year. But back when it happened, when I worked in the business, I never experienced covering that type of tragedy. What was it like that for you being there? You have networks and all these crews from all over the country, and you're talking to families that were affected and lost some children or loved ones. What was that like?
So the day it happened, I did not actually go to Uvalde, but I produced a couple straight packages on reaction from social media, political leaders in Texas. But the following days, I was there throughout the weeks and months, and it was, again, I never covered something as devastating as a school shooting in my career. And being there in this small Texas town where everyone seems like they know someone, and to see this elementary school surrounded by law enforcement and media and kind of this cascade of love from the community with the flowers, pictures, etc. It was an experience that, it was mentally draining at times, but you gotta, in this business, realize you have a job to do, and sharing the stories of those that lost loved ones, talking with the officials to understand what happened, press for answers, accountability among everyone. You got to get into that mindset, but we're all human and we all have emotions. So it was difficult, I must say. I was there for a week straight, doing early morning live shots with a photographer and talking about every day that, this is the funeral or rosary that's about to happen this week or that day, and sharing how this child wanted to become a teacher or loved TikTok, and these small little children that had so much potential and promise in their lives and were continued to be loved and remembered each day, advocated for. Almost a year since the shooting. So the mentally draining aspect was certainly stood out. But other aspects, seeing the flood of media from around the world. I met folks from Germany and the UK. It was an international story.
Right.
I don't know if it's it's a story that continues to develop surprises regarding the accountability aspect. And then with the Nashville Covenant School shooting, people making those comparisons to law enforcement's response, a quick response in Tennessee versus the response, 77-minute response to neutralize the target, the shooter in Texas. So, but the day of and the months after Uvalde, we're still doing stories. I'm talking with families, whether it's for stories or not, just to see how they're doing. And as we prepare for Uvalde, the 1 year mark, I'm hoping to be able to sit down with some of the families and just, how are you doing? You know, what can the community do? What do you want government officials? What can they do better? Hoping to do that story sometime in April, and have a story ready to go for the day of, because I don't know what the wishes are of the families the day of. I'm sure they don't want to be bombarded by law enforcement. So be able to talk with those impacted a month before would be, that's kind of my goal. So, but yeah, Robb Elementary shooting, it just 19 kids and 2 adults, 2 teachers, just, our lives just taken away senselessly.
Right.
And you know, being in front of the school and seeing that the massive amount of support from around the country, people driving by, walking in front of the school where the Robb Elementary sign is, sharing their love for people that they don't even know. I mean, it's pretty heartwarming.
Right.
And you know, walking past each life-size photo of the victims, the children, and the teachers, something else. You kind of got to be there to really feel that impact. And then they're at the town square of Uvalde, around the fountain. Multiple crosses, a makeshift memorial was established in the days shortly after, and that's where the story really sticks out with me. Is it was the day after, and that May 25th, 2022. I was initially going there to do a story on one angle, but as you know, in the business, things change and angles and stories change. So I was getting video of people writing their names and heartfelt messages on the crosses of 21 victims, and I went up to numerous people, but there was this one gentleman. He was an uncle of Jacqueline Casitas, and one of the children that was killed just the day before, so not even 24 hours. So, you know, speaking with him, I just like, hey, what brings you here? And he said, that's my niece. So, wow, I just be able to, he's willing to talk and share how much she meant to him and meant to everyone else that she touched in her short life. It was definitely a privilege and kind of a surprise again, because I'm just amazed that people that lose loved ones in tragedies are so, not everyone, but some people are willing to talk to media, but perhaps it's cathartic in a way to share how you feel. So I understand it from that perspective. But the Casitas family is the family that I've interacted with the most since the tragedy a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what it's like, what happens on the 24th, a year later.
Right. And I've tried, you know, I'm currently not, you know, working at a TV station, but things like this happen. It makes me wonder how I would deal with if I was a reporter there. It's such a tense, hurtful, people are hurting situation. How do you know who you can talk to, who wants to talk, what questions to ask and how would me as a father separate myself? This could have been at my kid's school, and for me it would have been very hard, I think, maybe to separate myself. I mean, was there any challenging part for you navigating through all that?
Certainly. I mean, I treat everyone, whether I'm in this business or just walking around downtown. I mean, I'll talk to people and be careful of how I approach. So because there's some people in the business that just want to get the story and aren't as, I guess, caring or methodical when it comes to how you should approach someone. So it's very important, especially when speaking with individuals in Uvalde, business owners, just general members of the community that maybe really don't want us there. Let's see all these cameras. Certainly, there was some of that. Nothing hostile towards me, at least.
Right.
But it creates this kind of snow globe of tense moments at times, and as much as we don't want to feel like, I guess, from the outside, like intruding on this community, well, we have to advocate for answers. What happened? Why did it happen? It's journalism, and you could pursue journalism in such a way that is caring and thoughtful for individuals, even for the individuals that are government officials, are school officials that are perhaps a little bit more hesitant to get back to you in a timely manner. Got to be aggressive, but you could be aggressive in a nice way.
Right. Yeah. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but is it safe to say that those stories you did in Uvalde were some of the hardest stories you had to do, or stories you had to tell?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think coming to San Antonio kind of showed me how important our job is in the world of journalism. And I've done several stories about death in Little Rock, Arkansas. So many shootings and homicides, and knocking on the door of a grieving parent, being there on the scene before police even arrives, and seeing neighbors surrounding their dead loved one. It's something else. I don't want to be in that situation, but kind of if you really think about it, it's what we do is kind of, it's odd in a way. I mean, we're telling news. We don't want to seem like we're intruding on a dark, bad situation, but we're there to explain what's going on for others to read and or hear or see. I'm still amazed, kind of at the concept of of journalism, probably because I've just been in it for so long. I mean, not for so long, but it feels like a long time for me, since 2014.
One of the main reasons I wanted to have you on our podcast was to talk about Parkinson's disease. And I just want to share a few numbers that I read yesterday, that it said 1 million people in the U.S. are living with Parkinson's right now, and it's expected to be 1.2 million by 2030. It also said that 90,000 people are diagnosed every year, with men having a 1.5 greater chance of getting it, compared to women. And I know you have a recent personal experience with Parkinson's, and I was hoping you could share that with viewers.
Absolutely. So on March 7th, my Grandma Sharon, she died of Parkinson's disease, and I was able to go over to Washington State to see my family and my grandfather, who was assisting my grandmother, his wife, till her final days, her final breaths. And when I got the phone call from my mother, it was a Sunday, so the days exactly, but it was a Sunday, and just a few days before she died, and I was about to go to work the following Monday. I said, Zach, your grandmother's going to be most likely spending her last breaths here shortly. So, and I just made a decision to fly over, had the means to do so, and thankfully, very thankful that my work is able to understand for me to go over and see my grandmother. And yeah, it was a unlike anything I've experienced before. Seeing someone that had a wealth of memories, fond memories with my 29 years of life, and just to give kind of a picture of who my grandma Sharon was. So red hair and always had a smile on her face, along with my grandpa Roger. They really got me into classical music, jazz, theater, like community theater. They were growing up. They were both very into directing plays and acting in plays. We got really exploded my interest into all those aspects of art. I play the clarinet and I play all sorts of music, but thanks to my grandparents, my grandma Sharon, they shaped my love for not only music but the news and just seeing different things in life from their eyes. And I've always enjoyed learning from them. So to see someone that I hadn't talked to since December 25th of 2022 in such a state, it was very surprising and in a comatose state. So we all gathered, had family that flew in from elsewhere as well to spend last moments. And it was, very tough, but there was a sense of relief that I got to see her before she actually died on the 7th of March. And I did play my clarinet. I'm sure she heard it as she was laying down. I'm sure she heard me playing, as I think Moon Glow. That's a tune that I prefer the version from Benny Goodman, clarinet player, big band days. Yeah. I also played just something I made up. Grandfather recorded it, shared with some family members. But yeah, it was sad, but it was also a time to think about the importance of family, for sure. And it made me think about my parents, and if they were to ever have something happen to them, such as Parkinson's or any other situation where they're on their last leg, makes me want to be next to them, Right. But Parkinson's disease, very cruel, and it steals people's minds and their ability to talk. I mean, I would have conversations with my grandma, and I'd be doing a lot of listening and trying to engage with someone with Parkinson's. At least for my grandma, she would be talking about something, and words, trying to string together coherent sentences would be difficult. I'm asking questions about seen any movies lately, or been watching the news, what's going on in Seattle area. Yeah, and you could kind of get what she's trying to say, but this neurological disorder preventing her from being able to eloquently say anything. Right. So in that regard, it's very sad. But I think she always knew who I was. I don't think she didn't know my name, because the last time I talked with her was in 2019, and I was with my grandma Louisa from my mom's side, her mother. We all met in Olympia or Lacey, Washington, for a jazz festival, and I have some pictures of both grandmas and me, and in the stands, posing for a picture at this traditional jazz festival. And there was no immediate signs of anything then and there. So perhaps the way, I don't know the exact date of diagnosis or when the symptoms started becoming apparent from my grandfather's perspective, but at least for me. I mean, 2019, and then now it's 2023. I mean, it's wild how aggressive Parkinson's was, at least on her, and her ability to live, the way she wanted it. Yes, it's a cruel disease, and it makes me want to learn more about Parkinson's. And I know Alzheimer's. I've done several stories on Alzheimer's. I mean Parkinson's, it affects the mind as well. But it's just interesting how this disease impacts the human body, and for some people it's more aggressive than others. I mean, I don't know if there's any cures out there, but it seems like the Parkinson's Foundation is one of those prominent organizations that's trying to bring awareness to ways of helping toward finding a way to help those impacted, or helping family members that care for those with the disease. It's just debilitating. But I was very thankful to be able to go back to Washington for a couple weeks and say hello and goodbye, in a way, at least physically, to my grandmother. And if I wasn't able to see her, then I still would have been obviously very sad. But it was important for me to be there and see her in that state.
Right. And I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that was the first time I've ever seen a loved one die, like right before my eyes. So it's horrible, but yeah, it's my grandfather's doing well, it seems, posting on social media and going to places where they traveled together, and movie theaters they went to together, or parks, community theaters.
Yeah.
So the stage of grief, the long journey of grief, is a big challenge for those that have lost someone they care deeply about, someone, whether it's my grandmother's situation, or the pandemic, or a mass shooting. I mean, grief. I've done stories on grief as well, and yeah, everyone processes it differently. But for me, I mean, it's listening to music and looking at pictures of when we did things together. Yeah. Hearing her in the background of YouTube videos of me recording on my cell phone of bands performances that we attended, like stuff like that is helpful for me, instead of thinking about the kind of the dark images of seeing her in that state, but thinking about the fond times.
Right. Definitely. And this is, Parkinson's Awareness Month. And I mean, is there nothing more effective at getting someone's attention than when you have that personal experience that brings awareness to you about this disease?
Yeah, it kind of catapults my interest to learn more, as I said, about Parkinson's and the ways I can help toward the cause, to providing some type of medical relief, or can make it to help those caring for others. Parkinson's, among celebrities as well, I think has helped bring awareness to the seriousness of how it can destroy someone's life and the lives.
Right. Michael J. Fox.
Others.
We were talking about.
Yeah. Michael J. Fox is a big name for sure. Yeah, he seems, I don't know for sure, but he's still talking, and he's moving around and seems to be living life as best as he can. And it's fantastic. Also, one of the guess, big stories that I've covered, it seems like, since I've come to San Antonio, was, your classmate, Jennifer Sue Delgado, and bringing awareness to her story and the never-ending task to get answers and some type of closure. A little girl that was stabbed to death doing laundry with her mother,
Right.
and the foundation, along with media reports, getting even national media involved, and I'm hoping that's going to be helpful for law enforcement and governorship across Texas to find out what happened. I mean, that story and stories continues to stick with me, and hoping that we could continue to learn more about what happened to the person that killed her.
Right. And yeah, like you said, closure, ultimately, closure and finding out who did this. But if that aside, closure for me is just, maybe not closure, but just closure, but an ongoing serving the public through the nonprofit organization, helping youth with their educational needs, keeping Jennifer's story in the public's eye from time to time, just so that it's not forgotten. And right now, the Texas Attorney General's office has a cold case unit that is still, it's been a few months, but I check in with them like once a month, and they say they're still working on it with San Antonio Police Department. And I know SAPD has told me there's really not that much evidence to go off of, and so for them it's kind of like at a dead end. But at least getting some fresh eyes on it from the OAG, a different perspective, maybe seeing something that someone else didn't see in the past. It's been 35 years, and I just want to do what I can to honor her, support the community, and keep the cold case alive.
Absolutely. I mean, there's going to be that day potentially. I mean, it's happened with other cold cases where decades down the line, there's someone that has the knowledge of what happened and who did it, kind of the smoking gun of sorts.
Right, because the reports were that the guy that did this got into a car driven by someone else and they took off. So that person, maybe someday could come forward. I mean, you never know. There's been cases where it's been 50 years and finally a cold case, has been solved. So, I mean, there's always hope. But if not, at least I'm doing what I feel is my part of what I feel I have to do for Jennifer.
And kind of lastly, another big story that has stood out with me, one of the first stories I covered was in Garden Ridge, outside San Antonio. Cashier, she was shot and killed by an individual that was demanding money lottery tickets. In the video, you could see Pam Smotherman, her name, the cashier, complying seemingly with all the demands of the suspect, and for whatever reason he shoots and kills her, and then you see the guy take off. And this was in 2020, and her sister, Pam's sister, has been trying to talk with legislatures and about what can be done to, I guess, make it safer for gas station workers. So, and at the same time, she's also trying to do more to uncover what led to the shooting, where this suspect is. I mean, no names have come out, as far as I know, and the follow-ups I've done, talking with Garden Ridge, but with police, Texas Rangers. This is a case that seems to be going in a similar direction as Jennifer's.
Right.
I mean, at least with the Garden Ridge situation, we had security cameras, but even at that, I mean, there's got to be someone out there that knows who this person is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I can't imagine as like a former classmate or a family member going years and decades without knowing, and that struggle, that pain.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how you can move on with life. If, or I mean, airplane, commercial airplane crashes and never being found, and it's uncertainty is the biggest, I guess, thing for me. But yeah, we'll be pressing forward with doing what we need to do as journalists to hopefully continue the stories of not only Jennifer Stu Delgado or Pam Smotherman, but others that have stories that need to be told, and make sure they're not forgotten.
Yeah, and now seems more than ever. I mean, when I was a kid, we had like Unsolved Mysteries or America's Most Wanted, but now there's so many podcasts and so many shows now devoted to cold cases, and you've been interviewed by some of those shows.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot the name of the one that's apparently affiliated with my company, but I've done audio interviews with people about not only Jennifer Sue Delgado or Pam Smotherman, but other cases as well. And then most recently, I was interviewed by Law and Crime Network because they're working on a piece about the Andre McDonald trial, which is he was convicted of manslaughter, not murder, for killing his wife years 3 years ago. And yeah, it's again, I'm not used to being interviewed, but I was able to talk about what I did covering the trial and what I observed. And yeah, there's so many programs out there. I think this program that Law and Crime Network is putting it together, it's going to be for A&E sometime in the fall, they said. So I mean, so much work that goes into these stories. It's amazing. It kind of makes me wonder. I mean, that's another potential avenue I would like to explore, just like longer form journalism or documentary style storytelling
Yeah.
about anything, not just homicides or cold cases, but people in general.
And I don't know what your future career aspirations are, and this is just my opinion, but I could see you, a network correspondent someday, and I don't know if you have aspirations for that, but I mean, have you thought about long term in broadcasting where you'd like to go next?
Yeah, for me, it's kind of about my this curiosity about living different places. So I've lived in Montana, Arizona, Arkansas, and then now Texas. I kind of get two tastes of the South,
Mm-hmm.
and then I guess Southwest.
Right.
Count that with Arizona. Midwest, I've yet to explore. East Coast, I guess the East Coast would be fantastic. I mean, one day working for a station in Philadelphia or New York, but again, Seattle's also would be awesome to be closer to family. And as I mentioned, after my grandmother's death, it reminded me and put for stressed my mind of how much I would love to be closer to family. Um, Driving 3 hours from Seattle to Eastern Washington versus taking a plane and not getting to see them, my parents and others, only just like basically twice a year, physically in person.
Right.
Always talking with my parents, Facebook Messenger and phone calls, but it'd be nice to be in the same state or neighboring state. But I've realized being in this business, it's the same job anywhere basically. Market size really doesn't matter. I mean, it's about, for me at this point, the community, how the station runs, how the ship's operated, and that's the amenities of the community. Like San Antonio has been fantastic. Still experiencing new things, and especially outside the city. I want to go to Fredericksburg one of these days. But that's kind of what I'm. East Coast would be a great opportunity, but I'm very selective of the cities or towns. If it comes to the point where to get to a town where a city I want to live in, and it's not in this business, then so be it. I mean, I'm an adventurer of sorts. I've still wanted to explore, but Texas has been fantastic.
Well, Zack Briggs, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. It was great having you on.
As always, and hopefully we could talk again and maybe about anything else. And I don't know. I'm a big movie guy. I do a podcast with a couple of buddies of mine from Arkansas. They're out of the business now, but we talk about film, and not just about the story, but the cinematography and I guess kind of being nerds about how things are shot and
Well,
why how someone did something with this shot versus that. So
you can't help it after being in the business, and how it works from being behind the camera, and then you watch a show or you watch a movie, and you know why certain things were done, shot a certain way, or you can imagine how you would have done it if you were doing the filming. So
yes, just the artistic side of movie making or TV shows is wonderful, and obviously people have their own styles in TV news. So maybe that I'm looking forward to when we could talk about maybe styles of shooting TV news or favorite movies. I'd be down to do that.
Yeah, if we talk about shows as well, Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, the way cinematography, and I'd love to talk about that. So
awesome. Well, I'm very thankful to be able to talk about my grandmother and Parkinson's, very detrimental life-stealing disease, and I'm able to talk about journalism and how it's evolved. My time in the business, not over yet for me. As long as I'm able to tell stories in some capacity, I'll be happy.
I'm Chris Palmer. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.